Discover the incredible moment when a single dad transformed the life of a CEO's paralyzed daughter. Jack had always believed in the power of community, but this was beyond his wildest imagination. He was a grease-stained mechanic, a devoted single father with calloused hands that hugged tools more often than his son. The town of Maplewood was a tapestry of interconnected lives, where waves from neighbors came easily, yet the weight of each secret lingered like the scent of engine oil. But amidst the bustling lives, Jack worried. He worked long hours to provide for his bright, curious son, Danny, who was stepping into teenage awkwardness with the grace of a gazelle on roller skates. The annual charity fundraiser was approaching, an event Jack always volunteered for, though he hardly ever felt worthy of its purpose. His dreams of giving Danny a life that surpassed their own financial struggles filled his thoughts. There was so much he wanted for Danny: friendships, laughter, and adventures that didn't scream poverty. Jack's heart swelled with pride as he watched Danny grow, the very embodiment of innocence and compassion. He could only hope it was enough. The night shimmered with excitement. Strings of lights twinkled, laughter thickened the air, and baked goods lined tables, courtesy of the tight-knit neighbors. But in the midst of the joyful crowd, tension danced. Across the room stood the Langston family, their elite status casting a long shadow. Robert Langston, the polished CEO, kept glancing at Emily, his daughter, whose bright spirit had dimmed to a flicker since the tragic accident. Paralyzed from the waist down, Emily's world was controlled by her father's well-intentioned suffocation. Then, it happened. Danny wandered toward Emily, the innocence in his eyes inviting connection. "What's your favorite food?" he asked, as if this simple question held the universe. With a hesitant smile, Emily whispered, "Just pizza." For the first time in ages, her eyes sparkled, igniting something deep within Jack. Watching them connect, Jack felt a wave of hope wash over him. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but as the interaction unfolded, Jack's heart raced. He contrasted their worlds: the struggles of a working-class mechanic against the backdrop of a gilded cage. Could they ever find common ground? As the night wore on, the air thickened with both excitement and apprehension. Jack stood before the crowd, his voice trembling yet resolute. "We must hold tight to our community, forget privilege for a moment, and remember empathy." Silence fell. Eyes turned toward him, shocked. Robert Langston interjected, asserting his daughter's need for protection. Tension spiraled, hanging like a pendulum. Would their lives intersect, blossom even, or shatter into irreparable pieces? The crowd held its breath, anticipation crackling in the air. Would they open their hearts, bridging the divide, or miss the moment entirely? The weight of the unsaid loomed heavily, leaving Jack yearning for answers and connection that felt just out of reach. Emily's gaze flickered to her father, searching for permission. Robert's stern expression softened just slightly, then hardened again as he adjusted his tie. Jack held his breath. Was this the moment that could spark change? Or would it fall into the chasm of unreachability? Danny, oblivious to the tension, reached for Emily's hand. "You know, we could totally do a pizza party. My dad makes the best." "Danny, wait," Jack interrupted, his voice a mix of excitement and panic. He felt the weight of 100 disapproving gazes drilling into him. What was he doing, thrusting his kid into a world that felt impossibly out of reach? But then he saw the flicker of joy in Emily's eyes, a spark that had long been extinguished. It clawed at Jack's heart. Was it worth the risk? "Emily," Jack said, his voice low yet firm, "would you really want a pizza party?" The question hung in the air like a promise. "Yes," Emily replied, her eyes brightening. "That would be fun." Robert Langston cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Emily," he said, his voice carrying authority. "You just got out of a dad, please." Emily interrupted, her tone sharper than she'd intended. But the desperation in her voice caught everyone off guard. Just let me try." A ripple of surprise danced through the crowd. Jack glanced sideways at Danny, his heart pounding. Was it possible that they could become friends? Were they building something beautiful out of this moment? The weight of their worlds was pressing down, yet the potential of connection shone brighter. "Okay," Robert finally relented, but control still gripped him like a vice. "As long as there's supervision. You and Danny can be together for a while. But I'll be close by." It was a half-hearted concession, tethered with restrictions. Something shifted in the room, a collective exhale that this fragile thread of connection had a chance to grow. Jack felt a wave of emotion wash over him. Though dimly lit, this was a flicker of hope against the heavy backdrop of struggle. He nestled into that glimmer, wishing only for Danny to steer clear of the complexities that lay ahead. Would their friendships flourish in the embrace of innocence? Soon, Emily was laughing, her smile infectious as Danny shared ridiculous jokes that only made sense to teenagers. It was something Jack had longed for, a shared laughter ignited between two worlds that seemed utterly opposed yet suddenly felt invitingly close. But even as joy bubbled over, a creeping fear slithered into Jack's heart. What if Robert's protective nature suffocated Emily's budding will to join the world? And what about Danny? He feared the world he adored might soon turn wild, and he'd be left picking up the pieces. Jack's mind churned with possibilities as the evening unfolded. They'd taken a small leap forward, but would it last? The shadows of the future loomed large, and Jack wanted desperately to shield both kids from the fallout. "Are you ready to build on this?" he whispered to himself, watching his son and Emily. Hope surged until the weight of uncertainty pressed down harder. The question loomed oily on the surface: how long could they hold on to this moment? As laughter echoed above the din of conversation, Jack spotted a familiar figure slipping unnoticed through the crowd. It was Diane, the town's child psychologist. What did she see that day? And would she want to share her insights? The hint of unease settled like a shadow, reminding Jack that this chapter had yet to be written. Would it be one of growth and connection, or would the walls come crashing down around them? His heart raced in rhythm with the uncertainty as he prepared for whatever lay ahead. Emily's laughter seemed to dance through the air, filling the room with a warmth that cut through Jack's worry. He watched her animated expressions as Danny recounted his most recent mishap, a failed skateboard trick that ended in a spectacular faceplant. The way she crinkled her nose, holding her stomach in peals of laughter, was a sight Jack wanted to remember forever, but as much as he wanted to absorb that joy, his thoughts kept drifting back to the silent figure of Robert Langston, lingering at the edge of the gathering. The man's eyes were hard, scrutinizing. Jack felt the weight of his judgment as Robert assessed the friendly exchange between Emily and Danny. Always watching, Jack murmured under his breath, feeling the need to challenge that protectiveness. His mind raced with thoughts of what could happen if Robert didn't ease up. Would Emily forever be bound by her father's fears? Would Danny's taste for adventure become stifled alongside it? Danny wrapped an arm around Emily, pulling her into the circle of their laughter. "You think you can catch me if I skate downhill? Bet I can do it faster than you," he boasted, his youthful energy contagious. Emily rolled her eyes but didn't resist the challenge brewing between them. "You're on," she replied, determination glinting in her eyes. A small part of Jack felt alive watching them, the innocence of childhood clashing against the heavy expectations that each child's parent brought with them. He wondered if this moment, this spark between them, could withstand the scrutiny of their parents. Because underneath their carefree laughter lurked all the meanings that their families placed on their connection. Suddenly, Diana's presence shifted in his periphery, unmistakable in her calm composure. He felt a slight tension in his gut. She approached them cautiously, her eyes searching, as if filtering through layers of laughter for deeper truths. "Hey there, everyone," Diane said, her voice a gentle ripple in the raucous fun. "Mind if I join in?" Emily turned, her smile growing yet hesitant. Jack felt the shift. He imagined Robert's inner turmoil at the sight of his daughter potentially opening up to a stranger about feelings and fears. And here he was, the conduit through which these connections could crack open or slam shut. Diane settled beside Jack, melding into the laughter until their eyes met. "This seems like an important step," she said softly, nodding toward Emily and Danny. "But, you know, real friendships come with layers. You have to be prepared for that." "Prepared?" Jack echoed, fighting the rising swell of anxiety in his chest. "Do you think Emily's ready?" "I think she's showing us she wants to be," Diane said, glancing toward the kids. "But what about Robert's concerns? Do you think he'll allow that freedom?" Jack's heart sank at the reality. The immense changes bursting forth in both kids were an invitation for Robert to retreat even further, for fear of losing his grip over Emily. Could Jack muster the courage to approach the other father, confront what lay beneath that unyielding exterior? He could feel the atmosphere around them shifting, tension coiling tightly as laughter filled the void. The connection sparked in front of him felt fragile, begging for someone to push back against the doubt. "Do I have to reach out?" he asked Diane, "confront Robert?" Diane's gaze held steady, hinting at some deeper understanding. Sometimes the biggest leap happens when you step outside your comfort zone. You never know what truth might emerge. Jack swallowed hard, the realization settling over him like a veil. Could the moment of truth lie just beyond the walls they built around their hearts? Or would he step into an abyss, potentially risking everything for a chance to see the kids grow together? Before he could answer his own thoughts, the laughter swelled louder, filling the air with innocence, shine, and hope. As he absorbed that silly sibling-like banter, Jack knew he was standing at a crossroads, a decision that required not only courage but a trust he had yet to wield fully. What's more, as he stole a glance at Emily radiating joy in her competition with Danny, the choice lay before him silently, but surely. Would he pave the way for more laughter to fill their lives, or would he allow fear to pull them all apart? Jack took a deep breath, his heart pounding, as he turned to Diane with a resolve he didn't yet fully understand. How far would he go to protect this flicker of hope for Emily? And as he readied himself, the unexpected sound of shattered glass echoed through the room, sending a frigid shiver into the laughter. What would that moment bring now? Fear raced through Jack as the laughter around him snapped into silence, eyes darting toward the source of the shattering sound. He spotted the remnants of a glass table, fragmented shards glinting like tiny stars on the wooden floor. The chaotic blend of surprise and concern that flooded the room mirrored his own sentiment. Emily's laughter faded as she instinctively grasped Danny's arm, her spirited challenge momentarily forgotten. Jack read the shift in energy, the palpable tension wrapping itself tightly around all of them. "Is everyone okay?" Diane's voice cut through the quiet, her eyes wide with concern. She rose from her seat, surveying the room. Jack followed the small wave of urgency that washed over their gathering. He could see Robert emerging from his corner, his stance tense and protective. There was a flicker of worry in his normally steely gaze as he swept towards Emily. It was a familiar dance, one Jack knew all too well. Robert would rush in to ensure Emily was unharmed, but it would hardly ease the walls between them. "Stay here," Jack heard himself say, raising his hand slightly to restrain Diane from moving forward. "Let me talk to him." The devotion in his heart strengthened his resolve. Even as fear lingered at the edges, Jack stepped forward, the easy banter of earlier dissolving into a solemn tension. As he approached Robert, the strangeness of the silence amplified every heartbeat. The distance felt shorter, yet infinitely more charged with the possibility of confrontation. "Robert," Jack said, his voice steady, cutting through the air. "Emily is fine." He gestured toward her, still clutching Danny's arm, but the fear in her eyes was evident. "No one got hurt. We just need to get this cleaned up." Robert's eyes never left Jack's as he scrutinized him like an opponent. "This isn't about broken glass, Jack. It's about boundaries." Jack took a breath, the weight of the conversation ahead hanging heavy between them. "Boundaries, or walls?" he countered, hoping to prod the other father, even just a little. Robert's jaw clenched. He was ready for a fight, a defensive position guarded against what Jack truly wanted to say. "You don't understand. I'm protecting Emily." "And what about Danny?" Jack said, pushing. "What about Emily's happiness?" There was a moment of flash where doubt flickered across Robert's face, but he quickly masked it, intimidatingly fierce. You think this is about Danny? The words dripped with disdain. This is about Emily's safety. Jack squared his shoulders. His heart pounded an unsteady rhythm, but he wouldn't back down. No one is going to hurt her. This is what kids do. They need room to learn to live. As Robert opened his mouth to retort, the kids erupted into nervous giggles, breaking the tension. Jack's eyes darted back to Emily, who was now whispering something to Danny. She looked half frightened, yet defiant, a mix he admired and feared for her. In that moment, Jack realized that the shift in their relationship needed more than action. It called for courage, not just his, but Robert's as well. Can you trust that? Jack said, quieting the tumultuous air. Can you trust that she's ready? Robert's gaze softened slightly as he studied his daughter. Jack wished for a glimpse of what lay behind Robert's hardened exterior. Was there a way to reach him? But before Jack could mull it over, Emily stepped forward, her voice steady yet unsure. Dad, I'm okay really, she said, hands on her hips as she sized up her father. Can't you see? I want to be out there with my friends. Jack's chest tightened. He held his breath, waiting for Robert's response. There was that flicker again, a questioning gaze, a rush of uncertainty. What happens if I let her? What if she gets hurt? Robert's voice wavered. Life is full of risks, Jack replied gently. But what if she thrives? What if she discovers something amazing? Suddenly, the weight of the world pressed down on all of them, a shared understanding that moments like this could be both perilous and freeing. As Jack glanced at Emily, her resolve was blooming, like a flower reaching for sunlight. He felt a rush of hope swell in his chest, the possibility of real change, a shred of freedom for both of them, but as he opened his mouth to speak again, another crash erupted from the side room, pulling the group's attention back to impending chaos. Jack stood frozen, wondering if fate had other plans for them, or if destiny was ready to tip the balance between fear and freedom. What would the next sudden turn of events reveal? The sound of breaking ceramic shattered the tension like glass on the floor. Jack turned sharply toward the side room, where the commotion had erupted, heart racing at the thought of another mishap. The dull thud of a chair hitting the ground echoed as Emily's expression morphed from determination to concern. Guys, what was that? Danny's worried voice mixed in with the whispers from the others, a collective curiosity that diffused the previous confrontation for a moment. Jack felt the weight of sensing more eyes on him, waiting for his decision. Stay here. I'll check it out, Jack said, trying to reassure the kids as he stepped away from Robert. The narrowed space between them felt like a riptide, pulling him away from confrontation and toward chaos. Just as he reached the doorway, he saw Diane follow close behind, her protective instincts kicking in. I'll join you, she said, her tone laced with urgency as they entered the dimly lit room. The sight that greeted them was unexpected. A stack of books had toppled from a high shelf, scattering across the floor like fallen leaves. But what drew Jack's attention the most was the sight of Emily's younger sister, Ava, squatting amidst the mess, her small hands scooping up the scattered volumes. Looks like someone has been playing a bit too rough, Jack said, doing his best to lighten the mood. Ava looked up, a sheepish grin on her face as she picked up a thick book, the very one that was her favorite. The weight of the earlier confrontation lifted just enough for Jack to smile. Sorry, Uncle Jack, she said, hair a tangle of curls framing her earnest expression. I was trying to reach the top shelf. Diane dropped to her knees, working with Ava to put the books back. Jack felt the softness of the moment enveloping him, dissipating some of the tension that had grown between the parents. Do you think that book has any magic in it? Jack asked Ava, taking her enthusiasm in stride. You know, like the secret garden where you can have all sorts of adventures? Yeah. I love that one. Ava beamed, her joy infectious. Maybe we can find a secret world together. As they cleaned up the mess, Jack snuck a glance at Diane. Her face softened as she watched her daughter, and it struck him how moments like this, the playful, innocent spirit of children, could bridge the gaps between adults. But the moment was short-lived. The laughter of the children turned tense as they heard a heavy thud from the main room. It was Robert's voice laced with frustration, the sound carrying a gravity that drew Jack's attention back. "I just don't want her to get hurt." Robert's voice cracked, a stark contrast to the previous bravado. The blend of fear and protection was evident, and Jack could see the turmoil in his features even from afar, a father wrestling with the weight of expectations. "Let us go," Jack said softly, motioning for Diane and Ava to follow him. He felt a strange mix of urgency and empathy, the need to protect his own kids swirling with the realization that Robert's heart was in the right place. They emerged into the living room where the atmosphere was charged with emotion. "Robert, wait," Jack said, amplifying his voice enough to be heard above the chatter. It was time not just for confrontation, but for a connection. "Can we all take a step back? Can we look at this from their point of view?" Robert turned sharply, still battling the tension that wound like a snake around them. The kids sat in a circle, sensing the change in their fathers. Could there really be a moment of clarity amidst all this chaos? Jack's heart thudded in his chest. When he discovered the truth about Robert's fears, could they finally diffuse the conflict? "Let us talk," Jack urged, taking a deep breath. "For Emily. For all of them." In that instant, uncertainty loomed over them like an impending storm. Would Robert meet him halfway, or would their stalemate continue to fracture their world? Jack's hope clung tightly to his resolve, ready for whatever came next. What was lurking beneath the surface of their struggle? Jack took a step closer to Robert, his palms slightly sweating, the air thick with anticipation. He could see Robert's chest rise and fall as he grappled with his emotions. "Let us not let this turn into another fight," Jack said, his voice steady. "They love each other, and they deserve our support." Robert's eyes darted away, searching for an escape, but something in Jack's tone seemed to hold him. He paused, his grip on fear loosening just enough for vulnerability to seep through. "It's hard," he finally confessed, a wariness in his voice. "I can't stand the thought of anything happening to Emily. I'm responsible for her, you know." "I get it, believe me," Jack replied, feeling a spark of understanding ignite between them. "But we have to let them find their own way. They're not kids anymore, Robert." As the weight of Jack's words hung in the air, he stole a glance at Ava. She was still busily stacking her books, unaware of the growing tension between the adults. Her innocence was a reminder of what truly mattered, a world beyond fear, full of creativity and adventure. "But it's not just about them. What if they get hurt?" Robert's voice trembled slightly, revealing a crack in his seemingly stoic facade. "What if then we'll be there to help them stand back up?" Jack interrupted, keeping his gaze steady on Robert, challenging him to confront his own doubts. "That's what we do as parents. We teach them to be strong, but not by sheltering them. We need to trust them, and ourselves." Silence fell over the room. The kids, sensing the shift, had quieted down, their eyes darting between the two fathers. The tension that had felt like a tangible barrier began to unravel, piece by piece. Robert finally let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "You really think so?" "I do," Jack said, feeling a wave of relief washing over him. "Emily has her strength, and we're both here to guide them. That's what family is about." With a hesitant nod, Robert glanced at the kids, who were now fully engrossed in their own world of laughter and imagination. The small room that once felt constraining now seemed to expand, carrying the remnants of uncertainty away like smoke dispersing into the air. Ava, sensing the shift, climbed up and plopped herself down beside Robert. "Daddy, can we have a tea party?" Her innocent voice broke the tension entirely, a radiant smile lighting up her face. Robert chuckled softly, his defenses lowered. "A tea party? Right now?" "Yes. With cookies." Ava beamed, her small hands clasping together in excitement. Robert looked at Jack, a glimmer of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Okay, let us do this. But only if you promise to help clean up." "Deal," Jack replied, relieved to see that glimmer of hope take hold. As they moved toward the kitchen, the atmosphere shifted further, the tension transforming into laughter as they started preparing for an impromptu tea party. Jack heard the kids giggle, their voices mingling with their parents' newfound camaraderie, each laugh a brick in the wall of connection being rebuilt before them, but deep down, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was just a milestone on a longer road ahead. What challenges and truths awaited them as they navigated the complexities of parenting? He exchanged a glance with Robert, a silent understanding passing between them. This was just the beginning. And yet, there lingered an unsettling thought: how would their changed dynamic shape their children's lives in the coming months? A fragile hope emerged amidst the uncertainty. But was it enough? The kitchen buzzed with life, the fragrance of freshly baked cookies filling the air, wrapping around them like a warm hug. Jack and Robert, now side by side, worked together with an ease that felt new. As they mixed the batter, Jack glanced at Robert, whose earlier tension had melted into an easy smile. It was surprising how a simple act, like baking cookies, could stitch up wounds that had seemed too deep to heal just hours ago. "You know, I always thought being a dad meant knowing everything," Robert said, his voice a little softer as he whisked the mixture. "But it turns out, I'm still figuring things out just like them." Jack chuckled, "Welcome to the club. I think we're all just winging it most of the time." It felt good to share that moment, the noise of the kids bubbling around them, giggles and shouts echoing off the kitchen walls. They'd lined the cooling rack with cookies when Ava bounded back, her arms full of colorful teacups and a mismatched set of saucers. "Look, we have to set the table," she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. Jack couldn't help but smile at her eagerness. It reminded him how simple joys could overshadow the darkest clouds. "Okay, Princess Ava, lead the way," Jack said, and she brightened even more, darting off to make sure they had everything ready for her grand tea party. Setting the table felt like a ritual of closeness. As Jack placed the teapot down, Robert moved to fill cups with juice, the clink of glass a comforting soundtrack. "I really appreciate your help today," Robert said, the gravity of his words laced with sincerity. "I don't think I could have done this alone." "It's what friends are for," Jack replied, feeling the warmth of camaraderie solidify between them. It was in moments like this that he felt they were rebuilding not only their families but also their own friendship. Fracture by fracture, Emily peeked her head into the kitchen, watching her father with wide eyes. "Are we ready yet?" she asked, bouncing on her toes, her energy almost spilling over. "Almost. Just a minute," Robert called back, a lightheartedness coming through that hadn't been there before. When they finally gathered around the small table they'd set up in the living room, Jack watched as Ava poured juice into tiny cups, her concentration making her tongue peek out against her lips, a habit he adored. The sight of the two kids, so full of hope and untainted enthusiasm, made the world outside feel distant and unimportant. As they raised their cups for a toast, Ava declared, "To friendship." "To friendship." The adults echoed, their voices mingling with the laughter that followed, yet, beneath the laughter, Jack couldn't shake an unsettling feeling. The contrast between these joyful moments and the anxieties swirling just beneath the surface created a tension he was starting to dread. What if outside forces shattered this fragile peace? What if their children faced heartaches, just as Robert had feared? Suddenly, the doorbell chimed, cutting through the laughter like an unexpected thunderclap. Jack exchanged a glance with Robert, and an unspoken question passed between them: who could it be? As Robert headed toward the door, Jack wondered if the arrival of whoever was on the other side could potentially shift the ground beneath them, for better or worse. The door creaked open, and Jack leaned forward, straining to hear the conversation that would unfold, hoping for the best, but bracing for the storm. Would this be the day that changed everything once again? Robert opened the door slowly, revealing a tall figure standing on the porch. It was a woman, her expression anxious yet determined. Jack couldn't see her face clearly, but the way she stood, feet planted firmly, shoulders squared, signaled that she was here for something serious. "Can I help you?" Robert asked, his voice steady but edged with curiosity. "I'm sorry to just show up like this," she replied, her hands fidgeting at her sides. "My name is Sarah. I'm looking for Jack." Jack's heart raced as he stood up from the small table, the clinking of miniature teacups freezing in place. He exchanged another glance with Robert, who looked just as puzzled. Why would someone be searching for him? Hey, it's me, Jack said, stepping forward. Is everything okay? Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes darting toward the children briefly before settling back on him. I know this is unexpected, but I think we need to talk. It's about Emily. Jack's stomach dropped. Emily. The name sparked 1,000 questions in his mind, unanswered and swirling. He took a moment to process her words and the weight they carried. Can we talk inside? Sarah suggested, glancing over her shoulder worriedly. I didn't want to cause a scene. Robert stepped aside, his brow furrowed but trusting Jack's instincts. As they entered the living room, Jack's mind raced. What could this woman possibly want to discuss? Is Emily in trouble? Jack asked, urgency slicing through the calm he had felt just moments ago. No. No, she's not in trouble. Not at all, Sarah replied, shaking her head as she motioned toward the children, still busy at their tea party. It's just there are things happening that I think she needs to know. It could change everything for her. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. What do you mean? He leaned forward, searching her face for clues. Behind him, he could sense Robert lingering, poised to step in if necessary. Sarah hesitated, tearing her eyes away as if gathering her thoughts. I worked with your wife. We were close. Well, I want to ensure that Emily understands her mother's legacy. Jack's heart twisted painfully at the mention of his wife. It felt like a wound reopened, tender and raw. What legacy? Your wife was more than just a parent, she continued, locking eyes with Jack, not backing down. She had plans, ideas for a foundation to help kids like Emily. And she wanted you to be part of it. The room felt smaller, suffocating in its implications. The cookies, the laughter, the tea party, it all hung in the air like a fragile glass ornament, ready to shatter. Why are you telling me this now? Jack asked, bewildered. You could have approached me before. Sarah sighed, her shoulders slumping. I didn't have the courage. Then I heard about the accident. It made me realize how important it was to carry on her vision. For Emily's sake. Confusion mixed with dread, swirling into a storm inside him. He found his voice, the trembling thread of an unexpected eruption. You don't understand, our lives now are so fragile. Can't we just have some peace? As Jack stared at Sarah, a weight settled in the room. The children laughed in the distance, oblivious to the earth-shattering truth hanging just above them. Peace is a luxury we can't afford, Sarah said quietly, her voice a whisper yet carrying the power of a thunderclap. Jack's breath caught in his throat. What did that mean for all of them? He could feel the universe shifting underfoot, his hands grasping to maintain stability in the face of uncertainty. In that moment, he wasn't just Jack. He was a father, protector, grappling with an unexpected legacy that could change the entire course of his daughter's life. What would he do next? Would he embrace this painful truth, or let it tear them all apart? The air crackled, and the moment hung heavy, bursting with unvoiced questions. Would he have the strength to face whatever came next? A future he never asked for loomed on the horizon, and Jack didn't know if he was ready to step into it. Sarah's intensity seemed to fill every corner of the room. Jack could barely process her words. The legacy of his wife felt like a whisper from a distant life, a life that had been swept away with the waves of grief. He inhaled sharply, trying to keep himself grounded. Emily, she deserves to know who her mother really was. What she wanted to do with her life, Sarah said, taking a small step closer. Your wife believed in so much more than just being a mother. She had plans that could help so many children like Emily. Jack felt a flush of vulnerability. And what about me? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. What if I can't handle it? What if I can't live up to her legacy? Sarah softened, her posture relaxing a bit. You won't be alone in this. I want to help you. Together, we can figure things out. But we need to act before it's too late. What do you mean by too late? Robert finally interjected, his tone firm as he veered closer to the growing tension. Jack turned, grateful for his friend's protective instincts. The foundation, it's in limbo. There are people who want to take over, to reshape it into something it wasn't meant to be. If we don't act now, it might be lost forever, Sarah explained, her hands animated, slicing through the air like she was trying to lay out a plan. Jack ran his fingers through his hair, every nerve in him tingling with both fear and anger. The thought of losing everything his wife had envisioned felt like betrayal. But the idea of carrying forth her dreams stirred something deep within him, a flicker of determination that he glanced at the children, who were still laughing and playing, their innocence a sharp contrast to the weight of adult worries pressing down on him. They needed stability, and here he was, teetering on the edge of an unfamiliar precipice. I don't even know where to start, he admitted, his voice low. We start by talking to Emily, Sarah said, her gaze steady. She has potential that should blossom, just like her mother wanted. Jack shook his head slowly. You don't understand. She's been through enough. I don't want to burden her with my past, or the expectations of what her mother represented. Keeping that from her could be more harmful in the long run, Robert interjected, his voice steady, offering Jack an anchor. Isn't it better to give her a chance to know more about who her mother was? Do you really believe that she even wants this? Jack asked, swallowing hard. The room felt full of possibilities and perils all at once. Sarah took a step back, letting the silence between them steep into something new. What if this isn't about just one decision? She said softly, looking at him with empathy. What if this is about healing? For all of you? Jack clenched his fists, grappling with the swell of emotions inside him. Healing. Such a foreign notion in his grief-burdened world. The very word sparked a glimmer of hope, a possibility he hadn't dared to consider. Can I really ask her to be a part of something so big? He murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Sarah's voice cut through the haze. You won't know until you try. Jack exhaled, the weight on his chest barely shifted but felt less overwhelming, as if possibilities were squeezing in between the cracks. I can't promise anything, he finally said, his mind racing, but I'll consider it. I owe it to Emily. I owe it to her mother. Thank you, Sarah breathed, her expression a mix of relief and determination. It may be the start of something wonderful. But as the words settled in the room, unease crept back in, like shadows licking up against the walls. Jack glanced at Robert, who seemed deep in thought. What had he just opened the door to? Let me talk to Emily first, before anything else, Jack said, his voice firm now, ready to face whatever storm lay ahead, recognizing the gravity of what he was taking on, but the moment he uttered those words, he felt swirling uncertainty again. What if he couldn't rise to the challenge? Sarah nodded, a smile ghosting across her lips. That's all I ask. Just give her the chance to hear about her mother, and we can take it from there. You might be surprised at how strong she is. As they all stood there, the children's laughter chiming like distant bells, Jack felt the pressure of impending choices, the kind that can change everything in an instant. What lay ahead felt daunting, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, a path fraught with decisions that threatened to unravel everything he held dear. Would he find the strength to follow through? And in the pursuit of truth, would he discover the hidden pieces that could bring his family back together? Jack took a deep breath, searching for clarity as he absorbed Sarah's words. The quiet laughter of the kids in the other room felt like an echo of innocence, their joy a jarring contrast to the heavy conversation unfolding before him. The warmth of the cookies and teacups couldn't mask the cold weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. Emily deserved the chance to know who her mother was, the woman behind the shadows of sorrow. Jack's heart twisted at the thought of all she had lost. But would this new burden layer more pain onto her young dreams? Jack, Robert broke the charged silence, his voice steady but tinged with concern. You're not alone in this. We'll support you and Emily, no matter what challenges come our way. Pain flickered across Jack's features as he realized how intertwined their lives had become. He thought of the earlier conversation with Robert, filled with old fears and new hopes. It was a moment spurred by vulnerability. The vital pieces of their stories were converging, and through this connection, perhaps they could cultivate real change for their kids, for each other. Thanks, Robert, Jack replied, feeling the weight of gratitude flowing between them. But what if I falter? What if dragging Emily into this legacy sends her spiraling? That's exactly why you need to talk to her. We can't predict the future, Jack, but keeping the truth from her might hurt more than you realize, Robert replied earnestly. You may find a way to honor your wife while giving Emily the freedom to explore who she is. Jack shifted his gaze towards Sarah, who nodded with encouragement. Her eyes carried a glimmer of hope that soothed his worry. The legacy can inspire, not overwhelm, if you approach it correctly, she reassured him softly. Okay, Jack said, the word leaving his mouth like an offering to the universe. I'll do it. I'll talk to Emily. But I need you both to be there with me. Of course, Robert said, his expression resolute. None of us are alone in this anymore. Just then, Ava came bouncing into the room, her arms full of candy wrappers from the tea party. Can we have more cookies? She grinned, eyes sparkling like the stars. Of course, little princess, Jack replied, ruffling her hair as he felt the weight ease from his heart, proof that laughter and sweetness could knit together fragile moments of hope. As they returned to the kids, Jack caught sight of Emily and Danny engaged in a lively discussion, the walls of their childhood kaleidoscoped in shared dreams and redemptive laughing. Seeing them tangled in joy struck him with clarity. This was a chance to create a bridge over their troubled waters. With newfound determination, Jack leaned down, eyeing the kids just a few feet away. Hey, Emily. She turned and caught his gaze, sensing that something important was about to unfold. Can we talk for a moment? I want to share something about your mom. Emily's eyes widened, a glimmer of curiosity dancing in her sparkled irises. About Mom? Yeah, Jack nodded slowly, feeling the moment that could change everything circle around them. It's important. The laughter fell away as the children settled in, the room's atmosphere shifting like the tide. Jack held his breath, preparing to navigate the uncertain waters. Your mom had dreams, he started, feeling the words weigh heavy but release something in him. Dreams to help kids like you, kids who needed a chance to shine. Really? Emily whispered, a blend of shock and hope flooding her features. Yes, he said, smiling softly. She believed every child deserves to find their light. As the moment unfolded, Jack noticed the corners of Emily's lips lift. The hope ignited between them like a beacon, blinking through the fog of uncertainty and fear. The bond he had been scared would shatter surged back stronger. Can we help those kids? Emily asked, her voice so small yet fierce, a spark of purpose igniting her heart. That's the plan, Jack said, feeling the rush of warmth spread through him. But we'll need your ideas. Your voice. Her smile widened, blooming like the flowers of spring. Can Danny help too? Absolutely. Jack laughed, his heart soaring at the thought of their united front. We can build something great together. As hope blossomed, Jack gazed at Robert, who shared a knowing glance, the evolution of their journey evident in the small shift of protection toward understanding. They would stand together, as allies in chaos and heartache, ready to rebuild. The conversation flowed, weaving threads of joy, potential, and connection where none existed before. Jack realized the legacy he was building wasn't just about memories or expectations. It was about creating a future that honored the past but offered brighter days ahead. In that moment, he found a renewed sense of courage, not just as a father but as a protector of possibility. The laughter and hope radiated as they began to build something new, friendships crossed by triumphs and nurtured by understanding. Side by side, they braved the unknown together, ready for what came next. The laughter echoed louder, filling the room with warmth and light, a spirit of resilience igniting within each of them. As dancing shadows played at their toes, Jack felt what he thought was lost ignite once more, coaxing a promise of healing and transformation from the ashes of their past. In that small moment, families knitted closer together, bonds forged in laughter, and strength found amidst vulnerability. They stood at the precipice of future possibilities, ready to write the next chapter together. And as they raised their cups for another toast, Jack couldn't help but feel invigorated. They were shaping their story, a journey of healing and connection born from love, a promise to celebrate not just their individual paths, but the trail they forged together. It was freedom, and it was joy. And suddenly, everything felt just right. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to witness more inspiring stories like this one. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. And while you're at it, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this amazing content coming your way. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let's keep the conversation alive.